If you've been around guns for a while, then you know that today's must-have firearm or accessory is tomorrow's useless piece of junk that'll get you killed in the streets. 1 year, everybody needs a CQB sniper rifle, and a few years later, the market has moved on to more practical things like his and hers force reset trigger GE miniguns. Sure, it's easy to roast dudes for chasing gun industry fads, but I myself also have restless rifle syndrome. To be fair though, fad chasing is a symptom of the problem that guns are always trade-offs. We have power versus maneuverability, barrier performance, terminal ballistic, range, size and weight, cost, reliability, longevity, ease of manufacturing, parts commonality, availability of ammo, magazines, etc. Do the trade-offs of a battle rifle versus assault rifle in terms of weight, power, cost, ammo, and recoil pencil out? Who knows? There's valid reasons to want a battle rifle, and there's also valid reasons why battle rifles suck and you shouldn't even get one. Enough about all that. Here's my top 5 battle rifles. Coming in at number 5 is the HK91 in civilian trim / G3 in its military version, let's say. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, the HK91 / G3 was a bucket list rifle for me. Back then, prepared citizens probably had a Norinco SKS, maybe a Mini 14 if you were rich, and a pre-ban Colt AR-15 if you were both lucky and rich. In that era, the HK91 was peak German perfection. The rotating turret sights were fast and intuitive, and the build quality was incredible for the time. For this video, we got a real Heckler & Koch HK91 in trade at the shop, but these days the market's flooded with G3 clones like the Spanish Setme. Some of the clones seem okay, others are garbage rods. For me, the HK91 clones seem to have all the downsides of the design, but none of that sweet HK build quality and bragging rights. To be fair though, most of my HK91 clone experience has been mag dumping into trash with shot out post samples that have that forced reset in them. Even though the G3 was peak for the time, its 1958 release date was a long time ago, and now it's an AARP member that's starting to show its age. For example, there's no bolt hold open, racking the bolt back manually is both mandatory and awkward, the location of the magazine release is awful, and lastly, it's difficult to mount optics and accessories on this platform. Listen, Heat was a cool movie, and Val Kilmer's reload was perfect, but nowadays, Iceman's out cold, and frankly, I don't want the extra weight of a built-in bipod. Unfortunately, my HK test rifle had a lot more felt recoil than any other battle rifle on this list. The HK91 uses a roller-delayed blowback design like its smaller MP5 cousin. Interestingly though, the MP5 is one of the smoothest shooting SMGs available, but that didn't really translate into this example of the HK91. Yes, I'm aware that you can reduce recoil by swapping out springs and rollers and etc., but why didn't they just do that from the start? Despite the flaws, the HK91 is a fun collector's piece that could still throw down if you needed it to, and that was good enough to be number 5 on my list. Originally made by FN Herstal, the FAL beat out the HK91 on my list because it's just more pleasant to shoot. The FAL runs on a short-stroke gas piston, has an adjustable gas block, and a non-reciprocating charging handle, unlike more recent FN inventions. Released in 1953, the FAL was called the right arm of the free world because 90 countries made it their primary service rifle, but not the United States. The FAL may be best known for the Sella Scout commando units for the not-so-politically correct by modern woke standards Rhodesian Bush War. Manufacturing of FALs was licensed to multiple countries, leading to numerous FAL variations and a predictable range and quality divided between inch pattern and metric pattern builds. The rifles used for this video were customer trade-ins that we already had in stock. One was a DSA, and the other was an Israeli variant that dorks online called the Hebrew Hammer, which is either blatant war propaganda or a try-hard pro wrestling name. We did have some issues with the Israeli FAL due to mismatched parts, so we ended up fixing that rifle and sending it to auction, and ended up completing the test and doing most of our shooting and filming with the DSA FAL, and with that one we had absolutely no issues with it. I do like the FAL, but the design is old, and there are some problems to be aware of. The iron sights are tiny, and for comparison, M14 A2 sights are way better. Number 2, the FAL's old dust cover design doesn't really support optics and accessories very well. Number 3, I'm concerned that people might choose the FAL for the wrong reasons, because they want something to be cheap and unique. This combo of cheap and unique generally leads to a gun hipster clone build, a bubba'd modernization attempt that, much like hipsters, isn't really useful and doesn't really work. That said, a well-built FAL in factory condition just seems to run. It's comfortable to shoot, and that's good enough for number 4 on my list. My number 3 choice for top 5 battle rifles saw service in Somalia and in the GWAT, putting it right on the line between historic firearms and modern platforms. Of course, I'm talking about the direct descendant of the M1 Garand, none other than the M14. The M14 was the standard U.S. infantry rifle from 1959 to 1970, and like the Garand, it features a rotating bolt and a short-stroke gas piston that cycles the action via an op rod. Full-send versions are ridiculous, but the M14 is comfortable to shoot in semi-auto mode. Despite its short run as an infantry rifle, the M14 just refused to die and remained in service as a designated marksman rifle during the 1990s and well into the global war on terror because of its high accuracy and because AR-10s just suck. Currently, the Springfield M1A is the most common M14 that you'll see available on the civilian market, but there are also premium M14 variants from companies like Fulton Armory, among others. You'll also see rare, budget-price, Chinese-made M14s from companies like Norinco that were imported from China before Clinton banned them in 1994. Most notably with the M14, Delta Force sniper, Sergeant First Class Randy Sugar used an accurized M14 outfitted with a 1x power aim-point CQB red dot. Sugar chose the aim-point optic because his mission was to engage moving targets as a helicopter sniper. The red dot sight's wider field of view made acquiring and staying on targets from a helicopter much easier for Sugar. Black Hawk Down made the M14 a legend, but there are still some good reasons that it's not number 1 on my list. Number 1, the design is old, heavy, and it also lets debris into the receiver. Yes, the M14 works, but it's not as robust as some newer designs. Number 2, the M14 requires an adapter or even an entire chassis system to properly mount optics and accessories, and this increases the weight and adds further failure points. While the M14 is showing its age, I do love the M14 for its high accuracy, feel, and heritage. It does work reliably, and it's very satisfying to shoot. For me, the M14 sits right on the line between more historic and fun range guns and modern battle rifles. Let's give a quick honorable mention to the HK417, which does have a reputation for reliability and quality, but it didn't make it on my list because I don't have one. Why? Because they're rare, and they hardly ever come up on the used market for a price that I'm willing to pay. Maybe after I sort out the next phase of building the machine shop, I'll consider getting one for the channel. My number 2 choice for top battle rifles is going to be an interesting one. It's none other than the, quote, scar we have at home, which is the Colt Modular Carbine LE901. This is a proprietary Colt design and was entered in the military's GWAT-era SCAR trials, making the Colt a SCAR, sort of. Colt's SCAR that might have been features a free-floated chrome-lined barrel, ambi controls, AR-15 trigger, and a rugged monolithic upper receiver, so your laser won't lose zero. Unlike the previous rifles on this list, with the LE901, you can actually mount an optic, a white light, and an IR laser right out of the box. One thing I do like about the Colt Modular Carbine is that, unlike other SCARs, the LE901 uses reliable and easy-to-find SR25P mags. Like the AR-10, it uses a direct impingement gas system, but unlike most AR-10s, the LE901 actually ran. Fun fact, here and there you can find cool law enforcement marked receivers on the used market. So why did a relatively unknown battle rifle that failed to win the SCAR contract make my list? Number 1, it's more reliable than most AR-10s. 2, it has a modern-ish rail that's capable of mounting optics right out of the box, IR lasers, and white lights without any modifications. 3, they're half the price of FN SCARs and HK417s, making them a relative value in the modern-ish battle rifle space. Conveniently, the LE901 features an AR-15 mil-spec trigger, and this means that I was able to easily install a forced reset trigger and other fast guy parts. Inconveniently, the super awesome monolithic upper receiver means that you're stuck with a rail that does look dated, but at least it won't shift zero. Even in fast mode, I found the recoil impulse of the LE901 very controllable for a gun this light, which is high praise for a battle rifle not running an aggressive compensator. This rifle's fun to shoot, and so far, it's ran 100% reliably with absolutely no failures whatsoever. The Colt Modular Carbine is just a brilliant idea that never really sold well, which means it actually paired perfectly with this pretty much vaporware Leupold hammer, mated to its even more rare, original, first-gen, Delta Point piggyback CQB optic. The downsides of the LE901, it's uncommon, you can't change the free float rail, there's no adjustable gas block, so it's harder to suppress than a real deal SCAR. But despite the downsides, and even though volume sales never really caught on, the reliability, value, modern-ish design, and high performance of the LE901 were good enough to make it number 2 on my list. Number 1 on my list of top 5 battle rifles is none other than the SCAR H from FN. Unlike the Colt's SCAR we have at home, the Belgian-made FN SCAR Heavy actually won the military contract. At this point, the SCAR H 17S in civilian trim has been out for 19 years now, and I've been running them personally for about 14 years. In that time, I found the SCAR Heavy to be the most reliable battle rifle that I've ever used. Let's talk about the benefits of the SCAR. It's sub-MOA, sometimes even with non-match ammo. It's lightweight, has low recoil, a folding stock, adjustable gas block, monolithic upper receiver, aftermarket support, and it's actually a very simple design with very few moving parts. But Navy SEALs hate the SCAR. I'm sure that Sean Ryan was telling the truth about his SCAR experience, but I would counter that in the 19 years since the SCAR rifle has been out, we have gotten better, and so has the SCAR. SCARs love light gun oil, but they jam when you use grease. Far and away, though, most of the early issues with the SCAR platform were related to high back pressure suppressors, so let's talk about that. The SCAR's short-stroke gas piston system runs great out of the box, but baffle stack suppressors may require tuning. FN makes a gas jet kit, but I like the Parker Mountain machine gas jets better. In some cases, very high back pressure suppressors will go beyond what you adjust with gas jets, but I can usually solve these problems with an hour or two at most of gunsmithing. Unfortunately, even though I am an FFL SOT, I can't show you that tuning process on YouTube. As for round count on this SCAR, I lost count around 7,000 rounds. I still do shoot this rifle, but not as much as I did 10 years ago. Most of the hate against the SCAR is really about the price, even if they say it isn't, but there are some actual drawbacks to this platform which I'll tell you about. Early models of the SCAR had a reciprocating charging handle and out-of-style quad rails. Some people liked it, some people didn't. Number 2, baffle-type suppressors may need tuning or even a tiny bit of gunsmithing. Number 3, the muzzle brake's too loud. Number 4, factory lowers use a weird magazine that's actually for the FN FAL, but aftermarket PMAG lowers are available. And number 5, cost. As someone who's ran SCARs for quite a while, I know full well that this rifle is not perfect, but after a decade of use, this platform has proven to be the most reliable and accurate battle rifle that I've ever used. Conclusion. The AR-15 has everyone spoiled with affordable, accurate, and reliable mid-tier guns that just work. Unfortunately, cheap, reliable, accurate, and modern battle rifles just don't exist. On this list, the HK91 and the FAL were mostly range toys for me. To me, the M14 is right on the line between range toy and serious kit. Yes, it's been used in recent conflicts like the global war on terror, but there's no getting around the fact that the M14 is an older design, making it harder to mount optics and accessories. I will admit that the Colt LE901 was a very controversial number 2 choice, and a reasonable person could argue that I could have picked a SIG 716, an HK 417, or maybe even a Daniel Defense or LaRue AR-10 to put somewhere on the list. However, the lesser-known Colt is relatively affordable, reliable, and low round count examples are available on the used market, making it a value proposition in the world of semi-modern battle rifles. Even though the FN SCAR isn't perfect, it is the best of what's around, and so it was good enough for number 1 on my list. When I take a break from buying some CNC equipment, I may pick up the new 3rd gen SCAR, and perhaps an HK 417 or DD5 to compare it to. Unfortunately, I probably will not be getting a SIG 716 though. Why do the nations rage and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth take their stand and the rulers conspire together against the Lord and his anointed one. Thank you.